Hello and many thanks for joining us. I'm Felicity Ejike. Here are some stories making rounds beyond the continent. We'll begin in North America, where U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is set to deliver the keynote address as she formally accepts her party's historic presidential nomination on the final night of the National Democratic Convention. Harris will use the occasion to share her personal story and make her case to voters while also aiming at her opponent, former President Donald Trump, according to her campaign communications director, Michael Taylor. Last night, Harris' running mate, Tim Walz, introduced themselves to voters as he accepted the vice presidential nomination, urging Americans to vote against Trump in the upcoming election.
It's the honor of my life to accept your nomination for Vice President of the United States.
The United States is pursuing the extradition of Rigoberto Miranda Orozco, a Guatemalan man arrested for his involvement in a human smuggling ring linked to the deaths of 53 migrants in a swashing truck in Texas last year. During a press conference in San Antonio, Texas, U.S. officials revealed that Miranda Orozco's organization used trucks and stash houses to transport migrants from Guatemala to Mexico and then across the U.S.-Mexico border. Earlier this week, Guatemalan authorities, acting on a request from the United States, arrested Miranda Orozco along with several other members of the smuggling operation.
Announces the arrest of Rigoberto Miranda Orozco, a Guatemalan national, for his alleged role in a human smuggling operation that resulted in the tragic deaths of 53 victims, including children, in a tractor-trailer in San Antonio, Texas, in June 2022.
Our indictment charges Miranda Orozco with 6 counts, all related to migrant smuggling resulting in death or serious bodily injury. He now faces up to life in prison. We will prosecute Miranda Orozco as aggressively as possible, as we seek justice for those who perished and for those who were injured.
Venezuela's Supreme Court, widely seen as aligned with President Nicolas Maduro, on Thursday upheld his controversial re-election in the July 28 election, despite allegations of extensive vote fraud from the opposition. The court's ruling, delivered by presiding judge Cariclia Rodrigo, stated that it had indisputably certified election materials and validated the results provided by the National Electoral Council, CNE, confirming Maduro as the winner. Maduro had requested the court's intervention earlier this month, asserting that he secured victory over opposition candidate with 52% of the vote, according to the CNE.
Certifica de forma inobjetable el material electoral peritado y convalida esta sala los resultados de la elección presidencial del 28 de julio del 2024 emitidos por el Consejo Nacional Electoral, donde resultó electo el ciudadano Nicolás Maduro Moros como presidente de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela.
In Europe, the body of UK tech tycoon Mike Lynch was recovered Thursday from his sunken yacht off the coast of Sicily, while the search continues for a woman still missing. According to Coast Guard officials, specialist divers are still combing the wreckage, with sources close to the investigation indicating that Lynch's 18-year-old daughter, Hannah, has not yet been found. This latest discovery raises the death toll to 6, following the recovery of a man believed to be the yacht's chief, shortly after the vessel sank during a storm before dawn on Monday. 15 people, including Lynch's wife, were rescued, but Lynch and his daughter were among those initially reported missing. We'll go on a short break. We have more stories when we return. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. We began Beyond the Continent earlier by bringing you the story that U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is set to deliver a keynote address as she formally accepts her party's historic presidential nomination. She makes history as the first black woman and first Asian American to lead the ticket of a major political party. To speak more on this and get us some perspective, we're joined by Global Affairs Analyst Ejike Okpa. Ejike, thank you for joining us. Please tell us what the implications are of Harris' candidacy for representation and diversity in global leadership.
Thank you for having me. Again, just to qualify my appearance, I'm a Republican, but I'm not going to be biased. I'm just going to be objective in my own assessment and views about Kamala Harris. As to your question, I don't think Kamala, of course, at some point we're going to have a female president. Everything is work in progress. But I don't think Kamala Harris is that candidate. It's good that she's making the nomination, even though, the history is already being reported that she's the first of this, she's the first of that. But what people forget is she's the first to make a nomination of a major party without actually having won a delegate. When she ran, the first time she didn't win, and this time it was more like a coup. Because Joe Biden himself was forced out.
Ejike, I'm sorry to cut in because we're time constrained. I'll just like you, she is the candidate at the moment, whatever precedents led to that. But would like you to talk about her candidacy as a representation and diversity, really, in global leadership. What would, if you are not, you're saying you're not going to be partisan, so just speak to us on that perspective. Any candidate, for instance, that's the woman that represents what she does. What is the implication
of course,
for global leadership?
We had Hillary. Hillary was the first woman to make a nomination, and then, we now have Kamala Harris. As to the global thing, I don't know what are you talking about in terms of countries, how many women, are presidents or prime ministers, and then we're talking about diversity. We are a diversified country. We have women in various roles. It's not until they become president or governor that we recognize the role these people play. I'm just saying that Kamala has gotten to where she is. She's now the candidate for the Democratic Party. And then, we know who she's going to be running against, and then we're just going to see what happens from now till November 5th. Every other thing, the American people have a choice to make, and they will make that choice based on what they think of each of the candidates.
Okay, what ideal message do you think she will be able to put forward to convince voters to choose her over the Republican candidate, Donald Trump?
Well, she's going to run on whatever the party platform is, and then she's going to inject or introduce her own initiative. And so far, she hasn't had any press conference. She hasn't taken any questions. She's basically run behind the scene, or what I call a basement candidacy, dodging the press, and occasionally will, show up. Now there's going to be a debate, coming next month, and we'll see what she's going to say. The Democrats, of course, they don't have to have a platform and agenda to win an election. They just want to win it. And if they have to make up stories and push up things in order for their people to win, that's what they're going to do. So hopefully after she becomes the official nominee, and now she starts to say things, she has said a very few things about $25,000 to be given to people who want to buy home. Even if that becomes a federal mandate, then the states have the obligation or not to accept it. Just like they tried to say, we're going to forgive students' loan. Then, that went to court, and the Supreme Court has rejected it. So they're always going to try to put up something for people who don't understand how America is set up to think, they're trying to help us. And then, that's what the Democrats typically do. They want to make voters think, we're going to help you do this. Everybody in America has debt. If you want to forgive debt for everybody. Nobody was forced to become a student or go to school. If you incur the debt, pay it. You don't have to have a college degree in order for you to function in America. So, this bait and switch thing the Democrats do about, we're going to forgive you this, we're going to give you this, it's just not going to work this time.
All right, Ejike, just to mention that these are live pictures from the Democratic Convention that is set for today. Just to wrap up this conversation as well, I want to ask you, as a Republican, looking at the position of both candidates, what are the major challenges for Harris against Trump?
Well, the challenges are going to be the economy. Where we are, we now have 3.5 years or so of Biden and Harris. And now that the baton has been handed to her, is she going to exonerate herself and say, "Oh, I'm only a vice president. It was Biden's own thing. I'm going to do it." But Americans know, what they have experienced, inflation. We have had our border being crashed by people who are trying to break into America, which the Democrats encourage. And then, we now have, crime rate in America that's never been seen in the histories, at least for me, who's been here since 30-something years. So those are the things that Americans are going to remember. And they're going to say, who actually was responsible for it? Kamala Harris was the border czar. She never even went over there. She never even did anything. So
we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Ejike, for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Let's go now to Asia, where a court in Bangladesh on Thursday remanded two journalists, Shakil Ahmed and Fazana Rupa, to custody following their arrest at Dhaka airport as they prepared to board a flight to Istanbul. The couple, who are married to each other, have been detained in connection with the killing of a protester during the civil unrest that ultimately led to the ousting of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Authorities accused the journalist of inciting violence related to the unrest.
সাংবাদিক আওয়ামী লীগ সরকারকে উলঙ্গভাবে তারা সমর্থন করেছে। এই দুজন সাংবাদিক শেখ হাসিনার সরকারকে স্বৈরাচার হওয়ার পিছনে এবং জনগণের ভোট অধিকার হরণের পিছনে এবং জনগণকে গুলি করে হত্যা করার পিছনে তারা ছিল মদতদাতা এবং উস্কানিদাতা। এই দুইজন শেখ হাসিনার মতনই বিমানবন্দর দিয়ে পালিয়ে যাওয়ার চেষ্টা করেছিল, পালিয়েছিল জনগণের থেকে, জনগণের রোষে পালিয়েছিল বিভিন্ন জায়গায়। তারা বিমানবন্দরে পালিয়ে যাওয়ার সময় আমাদের নিরাপত্তা বাহিনী তাদেরকে গ্রেপ্তার করে। এর বিরুদ্ধে তদন্তকারী কর্মকর্তা, এটা একটি হত্যা মামলা। এই হত্যা মামলায় আপনারা জানেন যে উত্তরা জসিমউদ্দিন রোডে আন্দোলনের সময় গত 6-8 তারিখে আন্দোলনরত অবস্থায় ফজলুল করিমকে গুলি করে হত্যা করা হয় এবং এই মামলায় তারা একটি হত্যা মামলা দায়ের করে। সেই মামলায় এই দুজন আসামিকে সম্পৃক্ত দেখিয়ে আজকে আদালতে।
In the meantime, floods triggered by torrential rains have submerged vast areas of low-lying Bangladesh, compounding the challenges faced by the newly formed government following weeks of political turmoil. According to the Ministry of Disaster Management and Relief, at least 5 people have lost their lives and hundreds of thousands are stranded across 8 districts in the southern and eastern regions. Officials report that approximately 2.9 million people have been affected, with over 70,000 relocated to emergency shelters. Bangladesh, a nation of 170 million, frequently faces such natural disasters and is ranked among the most vulnerable countries to climate change, as highlighted by the Global Climate Risk Index. Let's also tell you that floods caused by seasonal heavy rains in northern Thailand have killed 5 people and inundated more than 2,000 hectares of farmland, with thousands of homes affected. New Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra has asked for help to be sent to the worst-affected areas in Chirai, Nan and Phayai province. The Department of Disaster Prevention and Mitigation said 2,052 hectares of farmland had been destroyed and 12,777 households had been affected by the floods, without specifying how many people that represented. The Health Ministry said that 5 people were killed, with 32 injured in flooding over the past month.
กับน้ำมาก่อนก็ต้องเสียหายก่อนเราล้อมทันไหมไม่ทันครับไม่ทันเพราะว่ามันมาวันแรกน้ำก็เพียงหัวเข่าแล้วเท่า
บ้านเสียหายหมด
เอาตัวเองหลอดก่อน
ใช่
ว่าเหลืออีกสักยัง
เหลือแล้ว
เก็บตั้งแต่เช้าแล้วแต่ว่าน้ำมันมาสูงเกินเนาะมันก็เลยไม่ได้
นี่กังวลไหมคืนนี้นอนหลับไหมครับ
น่าจะนอนไม่หลับค่ะกังวลมากไม่รู้ว่าเสียหายไปเท่าไหร่แล้วนะคะเป็นครึ่งแล้วค่ะตอนเนี้ย
Thailand's parliament said it would investigate a senior politician and former army chief after he was filmed slapping a reporter as she tried to ask him questions. Prawit Wongsuwan lashed out at a journalist from public broadcaster Thai PBS on Friday as he asked him about the appointment of Paitongtarn Shinawatra as the kingdom's new prime minister. Prawit was Thailand's army chief in the early 2000s. He served as deputy prime minister under the military-backed government that ruled until last year. At least 17 people were killed in a blast at a pharma factory in India's southern state of Andhra Pradesh, with 34 injured on Thursday. The district collector, Vijaya Krishnan, said the fire broke out on Wednesday afternoon at a pharmaceutical unit, which took place during lunchtime at the factory. About 380 employees work shifts at the plant, and many workers escaped unhurt because they were on lunch break. It was reported that rescue operations were over and all were accounted for, with a final toll of 17 dead and 34 injured. Investigators believe the blast was caused by a gas leak. Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Thursday offered condolences to the deceased family in a post on social media, announcing compensation of $2,380 to the families of those killed. Want a short break now? We'll be right back with more news. Stay with us. Protesters in Jakarta on Thursday set fire to tires and attempted to scale the Indonesian parliament fence over a move by allies of the outgoing president to revise election rules. Joni Bambang Suroso, a labor activist, said the state of democracy in Indonesia is messy and not in good order because of a lot of interference by Joko Widodo, who is abusing his power in the government.
Masyarakat karena kondisi negara ini sudah tidak baik-baik saja. Negara ini sedang keadaan rusak kalau menurut saya, tidak benar. Apalagi kroni-kroni Jokowi itu.
Kami teman-teman hari ini datang ke gedung DPR kali ini dalam rangka mengawal putusan Mahkamah Agung nomor 60 tahun 2024 yang mana hari ini sedang diobrak-abrik sama Jokowi melalui balik DPR. Saat ini demokrasi di Indonesia itu sudah carut-marut, sudah tidak karuan karena begitu banyak.
And that's all on Beyond the Continent at this hour. Would like to hear from you. Please send your eyewitness report to the number showing now on your screen. You can follow us on social media at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and on YouTube. Thank you for watching. I'll see you much later.